Hello and a very good evening to everyone to this session of HT EV Auto Conclave. While every session in this conclave is a deep dive into all things EV, this one in particular is the closest to my heart because it is about how we take EVs to the masses, to you, to me, and everyone around us. Joining me for an insight are industry leaders of immense renown. So we have Vivek Srivatsa. He's head for marketing at passenger cars division for Tata Motors. Vikram Gulati is joining us. He's country head and senior VP at Toyota Kirloskar Motor. Jitendra Sharma, founder of and MD at Okinawa Autotech. And last but definitely not the least, Ravindran Nambiar, president international business at Ward Wizard Group. Thank you everyone for joining me today for this session, gentlemen. So let's get the show on the road. Let me begin with you, Ravindran. That's because many say that India's EV revolution will start or has already started with electric two-wheelers. And the options to a buyer, frankly, are quite a lot. So in your opinion, what is really powering the sales surge that we're witnessing in the electric scooter segment?
Thank you, Shubhadeep, and it's wonderful. A very good evening to all the other panelist co-members as well. And yes, the EV space is shooting up in India. Definitely, very well pointed out. This entire driving of fanfare in the market is happening because there's a mass adoption being pushed by all sides. So one of the biggest initiative that government of India, thanks to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has also taken a notice of the entire EV bandwagon and has put up measures in the name of the Flame 2 policy or the various government subsidies that is being given to the various by the various state governments to the consumers. So that's also fueling the demand in the EV two-wheeler space specifically, and a rising awareness towards environment may be one of more reason that can be attributed for the increase in the electrical vehicle two-wheeler adoption happening in India, and thanks to the various other good companies who have done their good product offering in the market and creating a very good ecosystem and a very good offering for the consumers in the electrical vehicle two-wheeler category specifically in terms of number of offerings the customers can opt out of. So he has a good choice, he has a good support and encouragement from the government side. He's more aware that he wants to be participating in reducing the carbon footprint and also to the rising fuel cost. So all this factor is adding towards increasing mass adoption of electric two-wheelers in India. Subodh.
Right. Ravindran, you mentioned about state subsidies, and you also mentioned something very important about options that the customer has. But we will take a closer look at the options that are available to people in the country. But before that, it's the affordability really, which is a key factor, or is it? Because prices of electric two-wheelers is now almost at par with petrol models. Is that correct? What do you think? Affordability is really the driving force when it comes to electric scooters?
Yes, Shubhadeep, I would not disagree to this factor that affordability of two-wheelers in India is one driving factor for the ownership of the two-wheeler. So it has become far more affordable in terms of the various fiscal incentives offered to the manufacturer and to the consumer in terms of subsidy, the state government subsidy. So more in terms of ownership, the ownership cost has gone very good into the lower side. Secondly, the maintenance and the running cost of the vehicle is also one factor which is driving the factor. So affordability, but owning a two-wheeler and also running the two-wheeler for its specific utility and purpose is also gone down. So that is the key element towards driving electric vehicle two-wheeler in Indian market.
Right. But you did mention about the options as well, which gets me to Jitendra. Jitendra, I really want to know that Okinawa has had a place of prominence in the electric two-wheeler space in the country. But how do you view the options that are now available in the market? I mean, how good or bad is rivalry when it comes to electric two-wheelers? Is it good for the OEMs? It's great for the consumers, of course, but what about the OEMs?
Yeah, of course. If you ask my opinion about the options, I think right now there is a lots of option is available in the market. When it was a history earlier, maybe 3 years, 4 years back, when you talk about the option, there is a very limited option as compared to the IC engine in the market. Normally, the vehicle which is available, I think 60% is more vehicles are in the slow speed category, whereas the consumer want the high speed product and of course the performance product, because as all of us are grown from our birth till date in last 100 years, we have seen only IC engine, and IC engine only there is a one class, that is a high speed product and the performance vehicle. So people always compare the performance vehicle when they talk about the, and whether it's a IC engine or the electric vehicles, because they can commute for the long duration. There should be no range anxiety for that in terms of the electric vehicles. So as on today, there is a lots of vehicles, performance vehicles are available in the market, where people can or the consumer can compare these vehicle as compared with the IC engine in a bigger way, whether it's terms of performance, in terms of the upfront cost, and of course the running cost also. So nowadays it is become a composite pack for the consumer to go for the EV when they talk about the performance, running cost, economics wise, as well as the duration. And of course it is a question of the carbon footprint, to reduce the carbon footprint also. So nowadays lots of vehicles are available in the market, whether it's a scooter, high speed scooter, and in fact some slow speed vehicles is also there. But the people will go for the localization for that, where the vehicles are robust, they are good quality product, right quality product at the right cost, because after BS6 the cost is already increased a lot. So now if we talk about the product which is already made in India, so the consumer had a lot of confidence about the product quality, and there they can compare the product quality as compared to the IC engine, and that is one of the reason there's a lot of demands are coming in terms of the EV compared to the IC engine. For last, if you see last quarter, there's lots of increase in the sale of EVs there in the market. So this is one of the factor that there's a lots of vehicles are there. And when we talk about the competition, I don't think so there is any competition as of today, because the market size of two-wheelers is very big. As of today is around 20 million vehicles, including the IC engine, and the EV is less than 1%. But now it's a long run to go, the EV. So it is a place for everyone to accommodate it. And once the more people are coming, it will bring the more awareness to the market, and it will increase the market share of everyone to grow. So I think this is a good move for everyone to come in and increase the awareness for the electric vehicle altogether.
Right. No, awareness, of course, Jitendra, is very, very crucial when it comes to electric vehicles. But how are you looking at Okinawa sales, the demand that's coming? Is it being powered by um, metropolitan cities, or is there a strong or rising demand even in smaller towns and cities in the country?
If you see now, as on today, the demand is coming from all over the country, because as on if talk about Okinawa, we already have more than 350 dealerships, and it is available in the metros, it is available in the A class city B, as well as the rural area also. So demand is coming automatically from all over the India. And of course, if we compare with the rural and this metro cities, of course there's a lot of demands coming from the rural side also, because they're the value of the money as compared to the metro peoples where they live. The 100 rupees cost matters a lot for the people who are living in the rural part of India. So demand is coming from both the side, because the petrol prices are increasing in a big way. So people always think about that they should use the EV, because it is not cutting their daily cost, their pocket money. So this is a big factor for them. And I think if you see overall 60% is on the rural part, and maybe 40% on the urban and the metro cities.
Right. Right. I see a lot of electric scooters, two-wheelers in here in Delhi from different companies, different brands. So there are clearly a lot of options. But the one mass market electric car that I really see, Vivek, you'd be glad to know, is actually the Nexon EV. Now, what I really want to know from you is not really having a direct rival for the Tata Nexon EV. Is that a good thing, or is that not such a great thing? Because, the Jitendra spoke about awareness. So the awareness can perhaps only increase when there are more and more affordable EV options like or similar or close enough to the Nexon EV.
Yeah, I think fully agree with what Jitendra said. I mean, while it's nice to be the only player in the room, but I think it's more of a challenge. It's a challenge in terms of four wheelers. It's a dual challenge actually. One is obviously to convince the customer and overcome the kind of mental blocks the traditional in ICE customer has towards EV. But there's also a lot of negativity, I would say, from the non-EV players. So it's almost like we are all alone in making the road into the forest, and I mean, we don't see the lack of competition as an advantage. We would welcome competition, but we would also welcome co-thinkers, I would say, and people who can work along with us to accelerate this EV journey of Indian customer. Recently there was one very interesting article where I read where it's about somebody who's 40 years in the future, and it's a imaginary situation where from a EV he has to adapt to a ICE car, and the kind of questions he asks, he's asking questions like, do I have to service every 10,000 kilometers? Do I have to pour this ugly fluid, smelly fluid into the car? And stuff like that. Is it really so unsafe that the fuel I put in can actually burn? And so, if you look at it from the other side of the mirror, sometimes you feel that EVs are just the logical option. It's just the state of mind, the awareness, and the inertia to change that we have to overcome. And like I said earlier, fully resonate with what Jitendra just said, that the awareness as well as state of mind has to change. It has to change from two directions as well. Obviously, the smaller towns will change due to the sheer cost of operation. But EVs have much more to it rather than just low cost of operation. EVs are far more technologically advanced, offer much better driving pleasure with the kind of instant torque they give, much lower, easier to maintain, and many other things. So we would welcome other players coming into the market and working together with us in gaining more customers.
Right. Competition is always welcome, or so Vivek says. Vikram, let me get you in on that. I was frankly very, very impressed with the BZ4X. I sure hope I got that name right. That's the EV that was showcased globally by Toyota, but not much talk about all electric options by Toyota Kirloskar Motor. I mean, give us a sense of what the thought process is happening over at TKM when it comes to electric power, because globally, clearly, there is that propulsion towards electric mobility.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and good evening to the panelists. In fact, Toyota's journey to electric mobility began almost, uh, you know, 50 years ago, 1970s. And 1994 was the first electric vehicle that we had brought into the US market, which was the RAV4. Of course, many of the challenges that you see today were much more stiffer at that time, and because of consumer issues, we kind of brought out the strong hybrid uh, as a means of not going away and back to ICE completely. And over the past uh, 20, 25 odd years, we have the distinction of being the largest electrified vehicle seller globally at 17 million electrified vehicles. Of course, these are primarily hybrids as of now. Going forward, we have ambitious plans. By 2025, all our products will have an electrified version, meaning either a hybrid or a plug-in or a BEV or a hydrogen vehicle. We aim to sell around 5.5 million electrified vehicles, 1 million of which would be battery electric or hydrogen per year. So it's not about not having the technology. Over this period, we've gained a tremendous amount of knowledge and capability in the technology. It's really about a couple of things which are critical to adoption, which the other panel is also talking about. It's about consumer acceptance. It's also about the specific needs of different markets, different markets are not identical, and the products that we'll be offering in different markets will we will be uh, attempting to match that with the technology matching the technology to the energy mix, local national goals, as well as consumer needs. So, as far as TKM is concerned, we would be bringing out all electrified technologies going forward. We were the first to introduce the strong hybrid and began the assembly in India for the first time. We've sold over 5,100. I think the important point to keep in mind here is the shift to electrification and all these technologies is primarily aimed at reducing pollution, reducing fossil fuel consumption, and climate, having avoiding the climate change issues associated with carbon emissions. If you look at all these electrified vehicles, they have one thing in common, which is the electric powertrain. So hybrid has an electric powertrain along with a petrol engine, and hydrogen on the other hand has electric powertrain with a hydrogen tank and a fuel cell. So the all of these technologies going forward are going to be meaningful. They are going to meet very different requirements of the consumers. And just I'll take a minute or two more. In fact, I was going through Bloomberg's latest report, which came out in June, and as per that, if you look at the numbers, electrics are picking up. Uh, in fact, electrified vehicles are picking up. So while China and Europe are leading with around 7.6 to around 8% market penetration in 2021, you have markets like Europe, US, Japan, where hybrids have a much higher penetration. Europe has around 12%, US has around 5.5%, and Japan has around 30% penetration of hybrids in a new for new vehicle sales. Going forward, 2030, what we see is uh, all these technologies, whether it's a hybrid or a BEV, is going to remain very relevant. Uh, for instance, in China and Europe, the projections are that you would have in China 44% EVs and 25% HEVs. In Europe, it's going to be something close 43 and 25. In US, it's actually going to be 31 and 19 for electrics and hybrids. The moot point here is all these technologies are complementary. They do help us achieve the national goals going forward. And consumers, they have very distinct needs. And our effort should be to try and reduce and displace ICE as fast as we can with the various electrified vehicles, including electrics.
Right. Several very interesting points from there, but Vivek, if I could just come back to you, very important. Vikram did mention about China, about Europe, about the US and Japan. But one thing that we here in India are also read up a lot about is the infrastructure, the focus on infrastructure. Now that's happening here in India as well. But at what pace is it happening? Tata Motors has been involved with several projects as well, collaborated. Are you happy with the pace? I mean, even if we're not comparing to Western countries and China, the pace at which it is happening here in India, is it good enough to actually take electric vehicles to more and more people across geographies?
See, this kind of infrastructure, customers will never be happy. Even today, after probably 20, 25 years of mobile phone technology, we are not happy with the kind of coverage. We saw that at the start of the forum where Wi-Fi was still a problem. So, I think yes, space can go up, but I would see it's more an adaptation of the customer in terms of how to manage their EV. Obviously, home charging will become the primary source of charging for electric vehicles, and fast chargers outside will probably come into play either for longer drives or unplanned drive in the city. With the battery efficiencies going up and the battery sizes also going up, we see that home charging would be the primary source of fueling of the car. So it's really a little bit of, I would say, almost like an insurance that the customer seeks today, that I want to have infrastructure around in terms of charging. Can I take the EV to long drives without thinking too much? Yes, I would think that India would move quite fast in the future. Right now, probably not as fast as we all of us would like, but I have no doubt that in every other infrastructure, India always catches up fast to the rest of the world, and that's bound to happen here as well. But I just want to take the opportunity to say that the home charging setup would be the primary source of fueling up the car on a normal day-to-day usage within the city, or even for reasonable distances. The battery capacity and the battery efficiency would be very, very critical items going forward. And as customers start using the EVs more, they obviously will have a slight understanding of how to drive the EV different, to get the regen technologies to fuel back the batteries as well. And it would be seen that the infrastructure has a lesser role to play than what is imagined right now.
But Vivek, as I understand, there just seems to be a learning curve expected from the customer, which is not there in the case of, say, a regular petrol or a diesel. I mean, you go ahead, you buy a car, you drive it, and that's pretty much it. But there is a learning curve that's there. Is it just about getting accustomed to that learning curve and getting on top of it, or do you think that could be a possible deterrent for people?
Yeah, there is a learning curve. There's a learning curve in two areas. One is how to drive the car more efficiently. Again, I go back to what Jitendra said. 100 years of ICE technology has kind of put a certain kind of driving style and habits into the customer. But I think that's something which customers adapt very fast. We see how fast Indian customers are moving from manual transmission to automatic, and this is in fact much easier than that. Um, the other area which there's a bit of learning curve is how to manage the charge of the car, or how to plan. I've seen EVs even a year back in Mahabaleshwar, where at that point of time the charging facility between Bombay and Pune and beyond was even lower. But it's about how customers actually plan. Also, the visibility of charging stations across route planning is going to be very, very critical. Obviously, we'll have to get in technology so that customers can plan well in advance using their various navigational tools. And those are elements where I think all the EV players have to come together and say that rather than each of us push our own charging spots, let's kind of accumulate everybody's charging infrastructure so that the customer sees the accumulation of all the charging infrastructure. So yes, there is a learning curve in terms of how to drive the car more efficiently, how to plan travel slightly differently. But it's something I feel the Indian customer will adapt to extremely quickly.
Right. That's a very, very valuable point, a very important point that you just touched upon about opening your own EV infrastructure, your charging points to other brands, other products from rival brands. Let me get back to Ravindran. Ravindran, what do you make of that? Opening up your own infrastructure to products from rival brands. Some manufacturers have already started doing it in both passenger vehicle cars as well as electric scooters. There are two ways of looking at it, really, isn't there? I mean, yes, it can perhaps call for a faster EV adoption, more and more people coming, joining the EV bandwagon without really bothering about where their next charging point would be. B, it could also mean that there could be some manufacturers who don't concentrate all that much, perhaps it's a question, on developing their infrastructure, thinking that, okay, there are infrastructure points, charging points from a rival maker, maybe, perhaps. So if you can just throw light on that.
Yeah, Shubhodeep, what I feel is basically this EV ecosystem is very should be a very collaborative, and every stakeholder of the EV ecosystem, be it an automobile manufacturer or a company putting up charging infrastructure or bettering the battery chemistry, so that we have better battery chemistry cells available for bettering the efficiency of batteries. So the entire approach has to be collaborative. and that will give to a faster and mass adoption of electric vehicle, will result into this ecosystem being benefiting from the larger use case scenario. So what I would feel, there are constraints of not divulging or not diverting into a core area, non-core area of putting up a charging infrastructure, but for the benefit of the ecosystem, for larger adoption of electric two-wheelers and vehicles, the collaboration, the engagement between different stakeholders will always give a boost and encouragement to the overall ecosystem. So I feel this is a stage where everybody and everybody in the game can participate on a very holistic manner and put up their own contribution towards increasing the adoption. As Tata as a company, I completely view that point from the Tata perspective, where it has allocated a good amount of money towards putting up charging infrastructure as well. At the same time, being probably the first few players to offer an electric to four passenger car in the market. So likewise, there are companies who are collaborating, who are setting up. In the case of one more leading automobile two-wheeler company, they simultaneously put up charging infrastructure and offered manufactured vehicles in the market. So likewise, the collaborative engagement of the stakeholders in the EVs ecosystem will always drive benefits towards faster adoption, and hence the use case scenario of electric two-wheelers getting more and more popular will be a game of the rule of the game. So that will help the ecosystem in a better way, Shubhodip. That's what I feel.
Right.
And we're also working towards helping up people in the charging domain, helping participating in the other eco-frameworks of three-wheeler ecosystem, the two-wheeler ecosystem. Homologation of the charger network eventually will result into a lot of common infrastructure being shared across the ecosystem. That will always drive a greater adoption and mass adoption of the vehicles.
Right. Jitendra, do you agree with what Ravi just said and Vivek also touched upon about the EV space being more of a collaboration than competition?
Yeah, of course. In this, I have two opinions about this. One is about that, of course, there's a lots of collaborations required from all the stakeholders to bring more awareness about the EV. And it's related with the infrastructure as well as the product awareness. And the second part from our side is that when we talk about the EV, the first question comes in the mind of a consumer. They always have a myth about that. What about the charging infrastructure? Whether when they go for the EV, whether they can buy the EV, they can get the charging station or not. But in my opinion, when we talk about the four-wheeler, it is right, or maybe three-wheeler where the battery size is big, you cannot take out the battery. But when it comes to the two-wheeler, I think we have to give the ease to the consumer where they can charge the battery at their own convenience. Like in our case, in Okinawa, we have a detachable lithium-ion battery. So where you can take out your battery and you can charge at any place, at your home, at your office, or maybe any tea shop or anywhere, like you are charging your mobile phone. So it's a ease to the consumer where people don't have any misconception about the charging for the two-wheeler, because there is an adoption of the two-wheeler for the electric vehicle is going in a big way. And when we talk about the charging station, if you wait for them, I think it will take long time, because when we talk about the market size of India, as far as the geographical condition of India, there is a lots of, maybe like if you talk about comparison with the petrol pump, there is more than 50,000 petrol pumps in India. So you cannot put so much charging station, and it will take long time. If you charge for example, in the month of June, July, like in the summer days, you want to charge your scooter and you cannot wait for maybe 1 hour or 2 hours just to charge your scooter. That is not the right way. So I think the better way, you have the ease for your consumer, give the ease to your consumer. You can charge at anywhere, any place at your convenience. That will bring the more adoption of the EV two-wheeler for the consumer to go for it. And that's why in case of Okinawa, we already have break that myth, where we have started our scooter start from Gurgaon and we reached to Khadungla Pass. That is the highest portable road in the world. And we goes there in 10 days just with a detachable lithium-ion battery. You take the battery, charge it, and you start on. So these type of lots of things which awareness bring in to tell all the stakeholders, starting from OEMs, government, maybe suppliers, dealers, consumer. They understand what is the need of it, whether it is required for the charging the two-wheeler at the charging station, or you can charge at your ease. So it depends upon consumer adoption, and I think, in my opinion, I think it will go in a big way if we give the ease to the consumer.
Right. So the buzzwords really from what I've gathered from you gentlemen, is that collaboration is very important. Of course, competing is integral to success, but that just makes us as consumers the king. And the infrastructure, the pace of it is improving, maybe slightly slower than what we would want, but it is definitely on an upswing. And very importantly, yes, there is a learning curve when it comes to electric vehicles. Now, these are, of course, serious talks. Let me get to the candid part of this session. This is where I really want to know from you gentlemen, do you yourselves own, drive, or ride an electric vehicle? And if not, is a purchase on the cards? Vivek, why don't we start with you?
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. I said, my next car for sure is going to be electric.
So your current one isn't electric yet? Not even the Nexon EV?
I mean, it's not mine. So the next car I'm going to pay for is going to be electric. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Vikram, what about you? Is it a hybrid?
Well, I'm halfway there. Yes, I have a hybrid.
All right. So would you consider buying one of those all electric cars? Maybe something from the rival camp?
Well, as long as my charging issues get resolved, I have no issues. Looking at
I'll be in touch with you, Vikram.
All right, Ravi, what about you? I mean, it's quite a lot of fun. I've tried a few electric scooters, and trust me, I'm sold. So, what about you? Electric cars?
So I do use one for my two-wheeler as a electric two-wheeler from one of my product itself. But yes, for the passenger car, definitely my next car should be an EV, electric vehicle. So I'm evaluating, looking at options coming forth. You should be considering a car which will be an electric vehicle car, EV car.
All right, Jitendra, what about you?
I'm using my Praise Pro, my scooter, for my commuting to go to the market nearby my home, or maybe go to the market with my son or something like that. But of course, if you go for the car, my next car, of course, I will go for the good car. Of course, maybe from Tata also I can go for it.
All right. Very interesting that it's still too early for us to perhaps talk about electric cars, but each and every panelist here said that their next car is definitely something that will be powered by battery alone. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. That's all that we have in this session. Your views were very valuable. And a big thanks, of course, to everyone for tuning in. Remember, the HT Auto EV Conclave resumes again tomorrow at 5 with more great sessions like this one lined up. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Viewers, thank you so much. For now, take care, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you so much. Bye.